I never thought winter could feel that cold, not because of the snow, but because the HOA president, Karen Hernandez, had my entire winter firewood pile seized in the middle of the night. When I found out it wasn't even on HOA land, she wasn't the only one who froze. It started one icy morning in late October. I came downstairs half asleep expecting to grab a few logs for the stove before the day started. But when I stepped outside, the space behind my shed was empty, completely stripped bare. 6 months of splitting, stacking, and seasoning wood all gone. What was left was a patch of disturbed dirt and a single notice flapping on the fence post, unauthorized storage materials removed for community compliance. My blood ran hot despite the cold air. That wood wasn't just fuel, it was survival. The furnace was unreliable and I'd been heating this old house with that wood for years. Every log was a piece of my summer labor sweat blisters long weekends now erased because some bureaucrat in a red blazer decided it didn't look right. I called the HOA office immediately. Some bored receptionist answered. Cedar Hill Commons Administration. This is Carol. This is Ethan McMichael, Lot 228, I snapped. Someone removed my firewood. There's a notice on my fence. Oh, yes, Mr. McMichael, she said flatly. That was President Hernandez's order during the October inspection cycle. Your pile violated the visual standards in Article 14.3. Excuse me, I said, my voice cracking with disbelief. That wood was behind my fence, on my property. She noted it was on what she believes to be HOA-maintained land. You can file a dispute, but the removal has already been executed. Executed, I repeated, my hands trembling. You mean stolen? I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. I stood there in the kitchen shaking, staring at the frost building up on the window. That wood meant heat and warmth, meant safety, especially for my daughter Ellie. I'd seen a lot in the Army, but nothing burned like watching a self-appointed queen use community rules as a weapon. Karen Hernandez wasn't new to the neighborhood. She'd been HOA president for 3 years and ran it like a corporation. Her red blazers, gold pins, and smile that never reached her eyes were infamous. She'd fined people for wind chimes, ordered holiday decorations removed, even dictated the shade of beige you could paint your fence. Most folks just paid up or stayed quiet. I had too, until now. Until that night I pulled up my security footage, barely remembering the cameras under the porch. There it was, 2 men in reflective vests backing a flatbed truck up to my shed. They loaded the logs methodically, one after another. And then her. Karen, clipboard in hand, watching like she owned the place, grinning as if she'd just conquered enemy territory. That grin changed everything. The next morning, I grabbed my property folder, the survey map, and a copy of that footage on a USB drive. I marched straight to the HOA office, which was actually a converted guest house behind Karen's own property. When she opened the door, she looked delighted, or maybe just entertained. Mr. McMichael, she said smoothly, what brings you here? You know damn well why I'm here. You had no right to take my firewood. Her expression didn't falter. Your pile was deemed an eyesore and a potential hazard. Section 14.3 authorizes. It was on my land, I interrupted. I've got the deed. The marker's everything. She raised one manicured eyebrow. According to our landscaping maps, that strip is within the HOA buffer zone. Then your maps are wrong. I held up the papers. These are from the county assessor. Karen just tapped her clipboard. Maps can be interpreted. I'm empowered to enforce standards. That was the moment I realized she wasn't following rules. She was rewriting them. I left before I lost my temper completely. That night I tucked Ellie into bed, piling extra blankets over her. She shivered anyway. Daddy, why's it so cold? She whispered. I didn't answer. I sat awake, staring at the dying embers, wondering if maybe I'd overreacted, if I should just let it go. It was only firewood, right? But when the furnace coughed and Ellie started to cough too, I knew letting it go wasn't an option. The next morning, I called my old friend Alan Morales, a county zoning investigator who'd served with me in the Army. Karen Hernandez. I said just stole my firewood in the name of the HOA. Alan laughed. That's the most suburban sentence I've ever heard. Send me everything. Within a day, he confirmed what I already knew: the wood had been on my property, no shared buffer, no easement. Karen had overstepped. So I went public. I posted screenshots from the video on the neighborhood group, the unofficial one that Karen couldn't control. Within hours, comments exploded. She fined me for a garden shed. She made me take down my flag. She said my recycling bin violated visual harmony. The dam broke, and the flood began. That evening, a woman knocked on my door, Denise from down the block. She handed me a container of chili. "I saw your post," she said. "You're not alone. She's bullied people for years. We're just scared to fight back." I nodded. Not anymore. When retaliation came, it was almost predictable. Another envelope from the HOA appeared, a formal letter from a law firm threatening me for defamation. I laughed, then went quiet when I saw a second envelope taped to my door later that night. No return address. Inside was a printed email chain between Karen and a contractor dated weeks before she took my wood. It read, "If we clear the area now, we can extend the holiday lights across both lots for better visibility." She wasn't enforcing compliance. She was preparing a land grab. My land. I sent the email to Alan, and together we filed a complaint with the county. It was no longer a property dispute, it was malicious damage. Then I took it a step further. I filed a Freedom of Information request for all communications between the HOA and city zoning. When the packet came back, my hands actually shook reading it. One email from Karen to a city planner asked if they could classify my lot's boundary as a gray zone. The planner's reply was clear. Parcel 2228 is private property. The HOA has no jurisdiction. And yet, weeks later, she ordered the removal anyway. Armed with proof, I went to the next HOA board meeting. Karen sat in her usual throne at the center table, flanked by her yes-men. I didn't wait for the microphone. I laid out my documents, the footage, the maps, and read her emails aloud. "You authorized trespass and theft," I said. Karen tried to smile, but her voice cracked. "That's an exaggeration. No, it's evidence." From the back, Denise stood up. "He's right." She fined me for a wooden swing and let her cousin build one. Another neighbor joined in. Then another. The room erupted, years of quiet resentment boiling over. Karen tried to adjourn the meeting, but no one moved. For the first time, the Queen of HOA order looked powerless. The county responded fast after that. Alan's report, the FOIA documents, and my footage left no room for spin. A formal hearing was scheduled. I remember standing outside the courthouse snow, falling breath-fogging in the air, thinking this isn't about Firewood anymore. It's about standing up when someone decides the rules only apply to everyone else. Inside, Karen sat with her high-priced attorney looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. When the judge asked if she'd verified ownership before acting, her lawyer hesitated. "No, Your Honor. Did your client remove Mr. McMichael's firewood without permission?" "Yes. Did she compensate him?" "No." The judge leaned forward. "Then this isn't compliance. This is overreach." I could feel my pulse in my ears as my lawyer presented Karen's emails, her plan to enhance visibility for her holiday event. The judge read them silently, then said, "You knowingly acted against city advisement. You treated a neighbor's property as your own. That's not leadership, that's arrogance." Karen's face went pale. She didn't argue. She didn't even look up. The gavel hit the desk. The injunction was granted. The HOA was forbidden from touching my property again. Damages were awarded. The crowd murmured. And just like that, the heat I'd been missing all winter returned in a single moment of justice. A week later, I got a letter from the HOA's lawyer. They offered reimbursement, an apology, and a promise to suspend enforcement near my property. It was a payoff to make me drop the case, but nowhere in that letter did it say the words I needed to hear. We were wrong. So I refused. 2 days later, there was a knock on my door. It was Dave, the HOA treasurer, one of Karen's old lapdogs. He looked nervous. "We held an emergency meeting," he said quietly. "We voted to suspend her. Denise is acting president now." I didn't say anything for a long moment. Then I just nodded. Good. That night I lit the stove again. The wood crackled, the room glowed, and for the first time in weeks the air didn't feel hostile. Through the window I saw neighbors putting up their holiday lights multicolored this time, not the sterile white Karen always demanded. The rules had changed, and so had we. I didn't celebrate. I didn't toast victory. I just sat there watching the fire breathe life back into my home and thought about everything it took to get here, the cold, the fear, the fight. Karen Hernandez thought she could seize my firewood, my warmth, my rights, but she forgot some fires don't go out that easily. Lesson: power only lasts until the people it controls stop being afraid.